Hello. Joining me today, and to my left or my right, depending on where you're looking, this is Cliff and Hoodie from Team Hopeless. Huge congratulations, you guys! You guys are the EU 2023 CCRC winners. So hopefully the dust has settled a little bit, and you've kind of been enjoying yourselves, kind of running around with the titles, you know. So thank you again for joining this, and welcome. Hopefully you guys are doing well today. How are you?
Pretty good.
Yeah, I mean,
And
doing great. I don't know if we should introduce ourselves or.
yeah, please. Let's go ahead and start with Hoodie or Lunia on your screen, right? Can you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right. I'm known in game as Alunia, and people on Discord know me as Hoodie. I've been playing since Heaven's Ward, but since the current expansion, I've mainly been doing only the MSQ. And with the release of the new PvP, I finally got into the game, did a lot of endgame raiding with ultimates and a lot of crystalline conflict, and now we're here. So it's nice to be here.
And Cliff.
Yeah, my character name is Cliff Zonza. People know me as George's. That was my previous handle, previous character name. I've been playing since the end of Shadowbringers, and I've been playing CC since day one, pretty much.
Nice. And again, thank you first and foremost for doing this. How did you guys get involved in PvP to begin with? Was there like a friend? Did you just happen to see the mode or like a trailer and you just got excited about it? Did you try Feast before and you wanted something new? What was that like whenever you first started getting involved in the PvP scene in general? Let's start with Cliff.
Well, the new PvP rework was announced for 6.1, and that was a point in time where I was like, I'm down to try something new. I'm down to grind something new, and so I tried the new PvP when it released, and I really liked it. So I just kept playing and playing until I've never stopped so far.
I believe you've been, and you're a monster for doing this. You've been top 10 every single season since then, correct?
Yes, that is true. That is correct.
I don't know how you do it. You're just built different, dude. That is absolutely insane.
That's a lot of time spent practicing. Not everyone has spent as much time playing the game. So when you spend a lot of time practicing, hopefully it pays off.
Yeah. And Hoodie?
Yeah, so for me, I was doing the MSQ as per usual, and I saw my friends playing the game mode, and it was like completely new then. So everyone was like climbing the new ranks all the way up to Crystal, and I was like, yeah, this looks pretty fun. Eventually, I ended up leveling my jobs to level 90 before I was even like done with any of the story. And yeah, I really enjoyed the game mode from that point. And yeah, from season 1 onwards, just been grinding it.
Mm-hmm. How did kind of like the EU scene for your guys' end? Like, what did you hear about Light Party in a Discord, or was it just like how did you guys find out about customs to begin with?
Yeah, so I can answer that question. So the Light Party scene wasn't too active in Europe overall from the start of the game mode, but eventually there was this community cup being hosted, and I think there was one other like player organized tournament, and from there on, there were like some interest in Light Party. And then eventually we saw like CCRC being hosted, and I think everyone in EU had the idea then like, hey, this is like an actual event, like let's go and participate. And so a bunch of new teams got formed, including our one.
Did the both of you participate together in the Community Cup?
I was not part of the team back then, but Cliff was part of a different team with like a bunch of really high rated players in both Light and.
Oh, the Community Cup was the square tournament. I think you're thinking of another tournament, Hoodie.
Oh yeah.
That was two different tournaments. I did participate in both with different teams each time.
And whenever the CCRC was involved, did you guys already did you know right away that you wanted to play with one another and your team, or what was the mindset going into? Obviously, like there was a screening process, and you wanted to make the best chances going into CCRC, especially after seeing the NA fiasco, right? So, where were your heads at in regards to knowing that you wanted to play in CCRC?
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what you said. We knew from the NA experience around the CCRC screening that we had to take into account uh, forming a team made of players that were eligible for the tournament. So that means half the countries in Europe were pretty much ruled out from the beginning, and then we were really careful to pick people that had no warnings or bans on their accounts, since that also made you ineligible for the most part. So we had a core group of Dead Rise, Taivas, and I that played together in previous tournaments together already, or at least one tournament together. And we picked the best players we could find that were also eligible. So thankfully, there were enough people that were eligible that we did not have to pick weak players. Everyone on the team was really strong, but yeah, we had to take into account eligibility.
Was there specifically anyone that that you were close with, that you've been playing with for a long time, that wasn't eligible?
Well, there's a good amount of people. I think a lot of the teams would have been different if every single country was eligible and there weren't concerns about people not making it through the screening process because of warnings or bans they got like 2 years ago or something.
Yeah, because the turnout, which is kind of insane, it was half, right? You had 15 total teams compared to the 30 from North America. What was that like? Like, was it just kind of like a ghost town almost? Because it was already difficult not only to find the right players, but for like scrim practice and stuff. Like, how did you guys kind of just plan out like did you guys already go into it with I want to win, and you made sure that you got the best practice possible? Like, how was the setup going into the tournament for you guys in terms of practice?
So I can answer that since I was the one organizing most of the scrims for our team. So yeah, obviously having a bunch of countries not allowed to participate made stuff a lot harder in terms of forming teams, but also finding teams to practice with.
Yeah.
But in the end, we did manage to get quite a few scrims going. I think we had 3 to 4 scrims going every week, I think. But that was mainly because a lot of teams were still like in the tournament. And then like later on, as less and less teams were actually still in the tournament, it was a lot harder to find scrims. But I think we managed to get a lot of practice. I think we improved like a lot compared to the initial like state of our team. I think our synergy at the start was quite wonky. I think a bunch of stuff we didn't call out in terms of communication. But at the end, I'd say our comms and our synergy was very solid. I think we had some very good combos, like actually up on the stage. And I think we went in confident, and all the practice paid off.
Yeah, I mean, here you are now, right? Standing with your EU CCRC finalist titles. Again, congratulations to that. You mentioned the stage. Was there anything that was like uncomfortable in terms of production? Was like the stage shaking, or like was it even like hard maybe with the headset setup to like hear your teammates? Was the audience too loud? Was there any factors that made it difficult on stage for you guys while playing?
Yeah, so in terms of organization-wise from Square Enix's side, about like the whole stage event, I think what the main issue is that the people in charge for all the events, they were in charge of everything. So I think the community managers, Alaverse and Vistenia, they were in charge of like 10 different events. And they were also supposed to like dance on stage during the Primals concert and stuff like that. So I think they had like an insane amount of things to memorize in order to like make all these events go successfully. And because of that, the CCRC tournament kind of fell a bit in the water, like organization-wise.
Yeah, the delays.
I could give some examples. Like, so like a few minutes before we were actually supposed to play, we were still setting up on our PCs. Like, I made my UI in the grand finals in like 2 minutes because my UI was not on that.
I thought it was on your first one. It was in grand finals.
Oh yeah. So there were like 5 PCs on each side, and before the tournament, Yoshida was doing like an event with like the other 5 PCs, doing like trials or something. And because of that, like not everything was set up on those other PCs, and so some people managed to grab their UIs and stuff still from the cloud. But I was not so lucky, so I had to set up some stuff. So yeah,
Holy
the
moly.
UI setup and like the peripheral setup was very hastily done, but it did work out in the end. And then the other thing was the stage was very loud. So at one point, like they were like calling out for us to like grab our trophies or anything, and
Mhm.
I think none of us heard it. So we were just standing there like waiting. Hold on, what's
Really?
supposed to happen now?
And for
Yeah.
you, Cliff, was there any stand-up moments in terms of production or just like setup with your gear and whatnot?
I mean, what Hoodie said is pretty much exactly it. Yeah, when you're on stage, the crowd isn't too loud, or the headsets, like noise cancellation was really good, so we had no issues with like communication during the games. But it's true, once you're on stage and hosts or commentators are speaking, you get absolutely no feedback towards the stage. So you have no idea what they're saying. You don't hear anything. So when
Oh gosh.
Yoshida is talking to us, or when the hosts are asking us to go take the trophies, then we do not hear anything.
We talked about this earlier. Just the last thing about the gear, which something I actually had never thought about. Your keyboard layouts are different based by your region or your language, right? I think you had mentioned there was an issue with that.
Yeah, so some people have like French keyboards, and so you have to install on Windows a different layout for that keyboard. I think there were like players with Finnish keyboards as well, and so there were like a bunch of issues with that. And eventually, one of our players just ended up swapping like PCs with one another, which was pretty funny. But I think all things considered, it wasn't too much of an issue to change your binds real quickly if you understand how those different layouts work. And we did manage to like play around it.
That's good. That's awesome. Did you guys like plan together any pre-practice? Like, did you schedule scrims? Did you get there early? Like, what did you guys do the day before the tournament or leading up into it?
So our last scrim was actually on Wednesday, I believe, and like we were planning on like going to like an internet cafe and like setting up some scrims, but eventually like logistically that ended up like being a bit too hard. But what we did end up doing is we had like this big strategy meeting the night before that went on for like 2 to 3 hours, where we analyzed like previous scrims and previous tournament games of the teams we were playing against and our own gameplay as well. And with that, we formed like a strategy and like a game plan of how we wanted to go into the games.
Mhm.
And that strategy meeting paid off a lot because it almost went exactly like how we planned it to go. And also, one more thing to mention, the switch for the PCs was because of Steam. I see Tyvas mentioning it in the chat. So some people had a
Uh,
Steam version, some people didn't, and that caused some peripheral issues.
that's kind of crazy, right? Because that's just out of nowhere. You know, like it's obviously one of the several factors of just things that can go wrong last minute that you wouldn't normally think about. So I'm glad it worked out for you guys in the end.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
wanted to ask. Uh, you mentioned strategy, right? What made the EU CCRC finals interesting to me is you guys, in a good way, you had me like scratching my head because you guys ran like Dark Knight Scholar and the rest, like your very unique comp. And I know my team, we've kind of tried to like emulate it a little bit or kind of feel the waters, but you guys definitely the style compared to an A is drastically different. Who was like the one that kind of pushed for that kind of comp that you guys played?
So it was mainly our Scholar player, Tyvas, that came up with this composition. And so previously, like the EU meta was very heavily based on sustain. So you have like double healer, Reaper Monk. You have like very very like tanky comps essentially, and that meta was kind of formed by like the predecessor of our team, Hopeless, and the players of like Team Italy Hungary. So it's like half our team, half that team. They kind of created this meta, and eventually, what ended up happening is every team ended up running this comp, and so eventually we were like, okay, we kind of have to find like a counter to this. And
Mhm.
so what we ended up playing was like this double tank. You have like a lot of crowd control from the ninja and the warrior stuns. and people in EU were not really like used to playing around their Purify that well. And also the one negative thing about like the meta comp with the Reaper, Monk, Dragoon is once one of your DPS is down, your kill pressure is very low. And we kind of like ended up playing around that as well, because our team, even if someone dies, we still have like so much pressure to play around. And every
Yeah.
single one of our LBs like by itself is able to win a fight. But I think Cliff can like give you some more information on the comp as well.
Yeah, it's true. It's a comp that has a lot of hidden or semi-hidden synergies like between each job. There's the Scholar plus Dark Knight. Both have healing reduction debuffs. There's the Warrior and Ninja. That both are. I mean, Warrior's really good at. Warrior's really good at burning a lot of purifies, and Ninja is extremely good at punishing people who have no purify. There's obviously the Dark Knight pull and Warrior LB that is insanely strong, especially with Dragoon on top. Either Wormwood combo or Dragoon LB both is extremely strong. Dark Knight pull and Ninja Dot as well is really strong. If you manage to stack the Ninja Dot and the Scholar Dot together, then it ticks for 8k or 9k or something. It's a lot, and people don't usually realize how impactful and how strong it is.
The amount of throughput.
Yeah, and also what Hoodie said is if you lose a member, you're still able to have some sort of kill pressure, which was not the case with the comp we used previously. And the issue we would run into with the previous comp we would run, which is double healer, Monk, Ninja, Reaper, or Dragoon, is that when we played against teams that use white mages, we would get bullied and trade 1-for-1 or trade 1-for-0, and just never be able to recover from losing a player because we would have no kill pressure as 4. So the comp was switched to fix that issue.
Did you guys know right away that once you saw the official website go up with the list of teams, did you guys already from then have it in your head like, hey, we can actually win this thing? Like seeing the teams in the bracket?
Yeah, I think so. At least the previous team that I played on, which was the core for Hopeless, we had participated in a tournament, a community tournament, not Square affiliated, and we won very convincingly. I think we had a record of 11 wins and 0 losses in total.
Nice.
So, and that was like half this team that went 11-0 was like the founding members of Hopeless. So we knew we had a strong core. We knew we had. I mean, we also had a little bit of practice from playing together from other tournaments, prior tournaments. And also, there's also the fact that everyone knows everyone in PvP. I think it's the same in NA. It's definitely the case in EU. You know all the players that play solo queue, and you know most of the players that are on the teams that sign up for CCRC. So you can kind of gauge what teams are going to be really strong and what teams are probably not making it to quarterfinals or semifinals. And so when we saw the list of teams, we knew we had a little bit of competition. There were 3 or 4 other teams that could have been really good, would have been really good either with more practice or if things worked out better for them. But we knew we definitely had a good shot of winning.
Now that you've played in both the Community Cup and on stage, the official stage at FanFest, what kind of changes do you wish they would do? Would you like to see a circuit? Would you like to see maybe just like a dedicated online tournament so that way everybody can participate, without restrictions from countries? Maybe more official Square Enix tournaments, like more than once a year besides the Community Cup or anything like that you would like to see change? No, we can start with Cliff.
Yeah, go ahead,
Hoodie.
Hoodie.
Yeah. Go ahead,
Go
Hoodie.
ahead,
Yeah.
Hoodie.
All right, so what I think, there's like similar games like MMOs that do like a big monthly tournament with like in-game rewards. And I think something similar to that would not be that much effort to set up for Square. And I think it would also be very good, like incentivizing people to make teams and also just participate, because a lot of players are just like doing solo queue, but there's not really too big of an incentive to like make a team. And another thing is like I think everyone that doesn't play this game that has like talked to me about like doing this tournament, they all ask me, is there going to be like a global tournament now that you're participating in? And obviously, logistically, that's going to be very difficult for Square to organize. But I think it would be nice to have like a global event or something similar to that.
No, and Cliff.
Yeah, that's true. I guess more events could be good. Then it's kind of a feedback loop. Feedback loop. Sorry. Where if there's more interest in LP, surely there's going to be more interest in solo queue as well. And if there's more solo queue players, then there's going to be more teams for LP, and it kind of feeds back into each other. So more players usually makes for a healthier game mode. So I think that would be good.
Yeah, some players have even mentioned having a light party season. Have you guys talked about that or mentioned it? If it's something that they would want.
I know that was a thing in the Feast, very prestigious game mode. But I know it was something people talked about in the very early seasons of CC when it came out. They were speculating maybe there will be a team season of CC as well, but
I think having like a full season committed to light party would be very difficult to like have enough like player interest in that. I feel like that's why I think like a format where you have the solo queue season and then you have like events that are like scheduled, similar to like Clash from League of Legends, maybe. I think that would probably
that's what I'm thinking of.
work way better in terms of getting people interested to play.
And in regards to this is mainly for Cliff here, because as mentioned, you've been, I don't know how you're doing, man. You've been top 10 every single season. You're just built different. Is there anything that you would like to see change in regards to just ranks to the rank ladder or just solo queue in general?
That's a very broad question. The system is. I would almost say the system isn't broken. There's just not enough people to make it work as intended. I think the system is probably fine in JP since it's a lot more active. So also maybe the devs Square get a lot more feedback from the Japanese side of things, and since it's more fine over there, since they have more players, maybe they don't see the issue in EU and NA as much. It's really hard. I still think it's not really broken. It's just there's not enough people to fill the queue, fill the leaderboards, and so on and so forth.
Do you think removing something like the server restriction, so like just keep it to where it's like if it's instead of how like NA has Aether, Primal, Dynamis, and Crystal, I can't name the EU ones off the top of my head. I'm sorry, forgive me. If they remove Chaos and Light, if they just had it together
for the entire region, I think that would be good. I mean, that would certainly help with the problem of not having enough players in the queue. You just double the amount of players, more or less. So I don't see why that would be a bad idea.
And Hoodie, is there any thoughts you want to add to this?
Yeah, I think merging like both of the data centers in terms of like PvP queues would definitely be better, because the matchmaking is like built with the idea that there is enough players to actually participating. So the more players you have, the more accurate the matchmaking system will likely be. I think one more thing I'd like to add is, I don't know if this is like technically feasible for Square to do, but I think having your rating tied to your data center, so you cannot like hop on like an alt account and like farm people with like very low rating is probably like a decent idea as well that they should implement.
Good. Well, I only hope so. It's kind of insane that we're on season 8, right? It feels to me like CC is still fresh and there's still things a lot to discover. It's, I would say, still a step in the right direction, and hopefully they find something that everyone is happy with. Has the dust settled in for you guys? Like, have you been walking around with your titles, or like going into like obscure locations, or like AFKing in Limsa with your titles on, or anything like that?
Oh, we just got them last week, actually, or this week. I don't remember. I think it was this
Oh,
week.
you guys barely
yeah.
got them. Oh, nice, nice.
Wednesday or Thursday. It was a few days ago. I mean, personally, I'm just talking for myself, but I'm not really a huge AFK in cities guy. I feel like just wearing the title, I mean, it kind of signals to other people you kind of want the attention. You want people to ask about the title or something. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not really my vibe.
Yeah, I mean, you put in the time and the work. You know, you deserve to at least kind of
I
show
guess
what
so,
you own it. You know, and Hoodie.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I'm using my title. I mean, it's probably like the rarest title I'll ever achieve in this game. I mean, it's just fun to have the title. I think mostly for myself. I don't really think there's too many people like looking at this title and being like, "Wow!" But it's like nice to just have something like in the game that like commemorates like you or like the FanFest event that we participated in.
Yeah, and you guys came home with your trophies, right? They at least gave you the trophies right away.
Yes. Who even came home
Nice.
with the check?
Yeah, I was just about to ask who kept the check from you guys.
So I managed to smuggle the check back home to my country. It was like I had to carry it on the subway and then like on the bullet train. I had to I booked like an extra seat, so I paid like a bit of money to carry the check on that seat. So I was allowed to. And funny story as well, there were like some customs agents like in my home country. They were like, "Yeah, you have to like officially declare this check, or else you have to pay a fine of 750 euros." But obviously, the check is like purely symbolic, and the whole money thing is like handled with bank account transfers.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it has Yoshipi's signature, right? Did you hang it up on your wall or anywhere?
It's still lying on like a table. I still have to find like a good spot for it.
Yeah, well, it's one of a kind, man. So congratulations. Did you guys get the chance to maybe talk backstage with Yoshi about anything in regards to PvP, or just like shake his hand, or just like even just talk to him with the translator or anything like that while you were there?
Mostly he was talking to us.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's way easier when it works like one person talking to an entire group rather than an entire group talking to one person. Especially since they have to translate everything from English to Japanese or Japanese back to English.
Yeah, we took some pictures with him as well. And immediately after the finals, he was there with his translator, and he was like actually like talking how impressed he was with like our strategies and stuff. And so I know Yoshida, like every weekend, he does like light party scrims in Japanese DCs. So he does like understand the game actually, which is like pretty like insane for like a person that high up at Square Enix to actually kind of be invested in the game.
I was impressed. I was almost surprised. He really understood what was going on inside the game during the finals or the semifinals as well.
So that was like really, really great to hear that like he actually likes the game mode, and hopefully like we'll see some more improvements coming from Square side for the game mode, because I do think they have like a solid core to like work with, but it just needs like that little push.
Did in some manner did your team feel like, have you just been chilling this entire time? Like, do you guys plan on going on break? What is the future like for Team Hopeless? Are you guys still as motivated as you were?
Oh, I think people had CCRC in their mind as kind of a milestone of like the end of the grind, kind of. Especially now that we've won, it's like we've reached the top, right? So all the practice has paid off, and now there's not really anything else on the horizon left to get. So we are enjoying at least some sort of break from LP.
Was there any activity that came from people watching FanFest and maybe seeing, seeing Crystalline Conflict live on stage? Like, was there any more activity in the Discords? Like, what is the scene like in general for you in terms of just like Discord activity to organize skirmishes for a live party in general?
So I think there has been like some uptake in activity. I know some of like my casual friends, they were like, "Oh, I actually want to try out PvP more now." Like after seeing that, which is pretty cool to hear. And we do see like a bit more activity in the solo queue side as well. But I think that's also a bit because there has just been like a new season right after CCRC. So there will always be a little uptake in terms of activity. And on the light party side, not too much going on in EU right now, but there are some things maybe for next year that are being planned as far as I know. So we'll have to see.
Nice, that's good to hear. So we've been talking for a little over 30 minutes now. Let's go ahead and take a quick water or bio break. If you need to stretch or do anything, please go ahead and do so now. We'll be right back. Hello, and welcome back. This is towards Cliff and Hoodie. How did you guys feel about the team that you guys lost to? And I want to say convincingly, but not to put a boot on you guys. But how did you feel that the team, it was an Italian-Hungarian team that you lost against in the prior? I think it was just called the CCRC EU practice tournament or something of the matter. How did you feel that they weren't there?
Yeah, so the team we lost to in that tournament, that's a team that was made up of mostly players that could not make it to FanFest either because they were from countries that aren't eligible, or they just couldn't travel to FanFest, or they just did not want to play on stage, or I mean, they had their own reasons. But I mean, we knew from the very start when CCRC was announced and the rulings about eligibility and whatnot were announced, we knew that a lot of very strong players would not be able to join teams and participate in the tournament. So it kind of makes sense that with like the interest in LP, increased interest in LP before the CCRC took place, while every team was practicing, makes sense that there would be a few teams made up of players that weren't eligible, and of course they don't have to work with eligibility concerns. Yeah. So they just pick the best players on every single job and make a team with that, and of course they're going to be really, really strong. I might be mistaken, maybe I misremember. I feel like we did beat this team in a follow-up tournament. There were two practice tournaments, and I feel like we did beat that team, or they got eliminated before we even got to play them in the second practice tournament. So we had some kind of revenge.
Yeah, so I know a lot of these guys like pretty well from the Italy-Hungary team, and they're all like really, really good players. And some of them were even like from the hopeless predecessor that played in like the community tournaments and all that. So that team is very good, but I think the main concern for them was obviously eligibility. Some people also couldn't like allocate the time into actually making it to FanFest and getting enough scrims together. And so yeah, that team also participated again in another like practice tournament we did, but they had like way less time to scrim than us. And so eventually, yeah, we did make it further than them in that tournament. At the time, I think they were definitely stronger than us, but that was also before like the whole meta shift that we did with like trying out new compositions and stuff. And yeah, who knows what could have happened, but obviously we all wanted like every country to like be able to participate, because the more strong players, the more strong teams, the more interesting the event will be in the end.
Yeah, it's very impressive that they managed to do so well, even win that tournament, despite the lack of practice, or they had way less time to practice as a team, and just in general less investment in practicing for LP because they were in CCRC. So yeah, congrats to them. They did it really well.
when they knew they couldn't play at FanFest, were they at least helpful in a way to like scrim with you guys or feed you guys any information? Like, to add on to that, was there any like secrecy in terms of comps, or like were you like shadow banning scrimming certain teams or anything like that?
So interesting story about that. The team we faced in the semifinals, Esports Ready, we were pretty convinced that they would be like the biggest threat for us, like in the actual tournament. And so we were scrimming against them a lot, but then 3 weeks before the tournament, we did our composition swap and we decided to not scrim them at all in order to give them like zero practice against this composition. And I think in the end that strategy did end up playing out, even though like it would have probably been nice to like scrim them for a bit.
So you planted it in their mind that you guys were going to play with a different comp and to suit them to a different style?
Yes. So we were playing like the meta before that, and then we knew the new comp had like a lot of potential, but we knew also that if you get to practice against this comp, it's a lot easier to play against because like it punishes like purifies and stuff and like greedy usage of defensives. So if you don't get to practice against it, you will not be used to like being punished so much for getting like your CC removal up. And
Yeah.
so it did pay off.
Yeah, it definitely worked out for us. One thing though, even though we said we would not screen them to not give them too much practice, they did take part in the very last EU CCRC practice tournament that we had, but they got eliminated before we could meet them. We would have played against them, and they could have practiced a little bit against our comp, but unfortunately they did not make it far enough into the tournament to be able to do that.
That's interesting. Besides Esports Ready, how did you feel about the other teams that you guys played or that were there in the top 4?
I think the Australian team was really, really strong. I'm extremely impressed by their performance because the way I see it, maybe I'm slightly misinformed or slightly wrong, but the way I see it is that they do not have a lot of teams to practice against in their home region. And if they want to practice, they're going to have to play on NA, and I mean that's a disadvantage in itself for them because they have to play on 200 or 150 ping or however much it is for them. So taking that into account, and just also the fact that there's even less players on the Australian DC, the fact that they could make a team that strong and go that far into the tournament is really extremely impressive to me.
Yeah, I think I'll echo that sentiment. Like, I think their burst sync was very on point, and like the way we went into that match as well, we thought like, okay, the Machinist serves like a very similar role to the Dragoon in the EU meta, and the White Mage is like obviously the same. And so we knew we had to like look out for those two jobs, and if we took care of them, then we would be able to like get the advantage in this matchup. And I also think like our composition, I mean, maybe it's like a bit, or like we don't have too much practice against their composition, but I was very convinced that like our comp was a lot easier to execute, and also had like way easier time in terms of managing LBs to win fights. And so we could like lose a fight and they would have to invest like 3 limit breaks, while we would like just be chilling with like 1 limit break, and we have a bunch still up for the next fight.
Yeah, that's the positive thing about having limit breaks that take a while to charge, is usually they're much stronger and you need way less of them to win a fight. And that's usually how the games would go when we would lose. I mean, it wouldn't be uncommon that we would lose the first couple fights when the enemy team got White Mage LBs or Monk LBs. But then we would win a few fights later when our LBs came online, and that would repeat throughout the game until overtime happened, and then we would win overtime because our LBs we would save them up for overtime, and so that was just too much to handle for the enemy team all at once.
Yeah, just the natural ebb and flow of fights. I'm glad you specifically mentioned Monk and White Mage LB. and you to circle back earlier, you mentioned that you were having the most trouble with White Mage. Is there anything specifically in terms of the kit of a class that you think should be changed, like off the top of your head? If you just sat next to Yoshi and you could push a button and delete an ability or rework something, is there a specific job or an ability that you wish you could change?
I mean, the obvious answer is polymorph. It's a very
Yeah.
or miracle of
Miracle.
nature. Yeah, I guess the official name is miracle of nature. It's a very controversial skill. It's a very all or nothing kind of skill, especially in LP when you're supposed to have enough coordination that you have bursts ready for every miracle of nature. Usually, every time you press that button, that's a kill. Usually. But on the other hand, if you throw it into a guard, then nothing happens at all. So either you get a kill or you get nothing at all for 30 seconds. It's a very creates a dynamic of if you press guard, then you win the fight. If you press guard at the correct time, then you win the fight. And if you don't, then you lose someone for free. It's a dynamic that a lot of people do not really. I mean, I don't know if I'm speaking for everyone, but at least I do not really enjoy that dynamic. It's a little bit too extreme, in my opinion.
That's a shared sentiment amongst a lot of folks over on ALT. And what do you think, Kitty?
Yeah, I definitely agree with the miracle of nature. I think every crowd control in the game follows the same rules, where like the Purify is able to remove it, or I mean, I guess there's some exceptions like Reaper Fear and Dancer, but just to have this on like a non-limit break ability and being able to like distort the flow of the game that much, it's like insanely powerful, especially in Light Party.
Is there any other, just for the people to know, do you touch any other PvP modes like Rival Wings or Frontlines? Do you guys do Q-Syncs or anything of the sort like that over there?
Not really, personally. I've played a little bit of Frontline, a little bit of Rival Wings, but I'm not a huge player of either of these modes. I used to play a lot of Frontlines, but that was before the new PvP was implemented, before the rework.
And for yourself, Eddie?
I like doing a lot of Frontlines and Rival Wings when there's the Tome event. So I like playing with friends and playing a bit casually. But I think there's a lot of balancing issues, especially in terms of Frontline, because melee and tank job just get like an insane damage reduction, which just makes them like automatically like way more powerful than all the other jobs. And what I usually just do is I farm Battle High off of the jobs without the damage reduction, and yeah, I just managed to get like a lot of kills that way.
I think the new PvP rework anyway was designed with crystalline conflict in mind in the first place, and Frontline was just completely secondary in Square's list of priority. I think the main tell that speaks for this theory is that the way they fixed quote unquote fixed Frontlines is with just flat percentage buffs. Like melee chops, they are 50%. They have 50% damage reduction or something, and then they lowered that to 40%, and then they lowered that to 30% or something. Or there was also for a long time, you could capture Ovus in Onsol while being covered by a paladin, and that was like how you literally cannot beat that.
You just activated a core memory. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really playing Frontlines while that was a thing, but I was hearing about it at least. The one thing also, I mean, this is kind of personal, but one thing I don't really like about Frontline is how much of an impact you can have as just a 4-man pre-made. If you decide to just run over an entire lobby as a 4-man pre-made with like Dark Knight Dragoon and whatever else people play these days, you can totally do that. That was a thing in the old Frontline before the PvP rework as well. If you wanted to just play Warrior White Mage and never ever die and kill people, like go 15 kills for one death, then you also totally could.
With old Home Gang and Rescue back then.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's crazy because like obviously the biggest complaints come from the people that did the old front lines, right? So and then now they're comparing it to this, and it's not the same.
It's not the same, yeah. I feel like it was never really balanced anyway. It's fun to play, but I don't think it was ever meant to be really competitive.
Yeah, you also have like a bit of like an issue with like anyone is just queuing into front lines, either for roulette or people are like trying very hard. So you just have a bit of disconnect between players, like the try hard premates and people that just want to chill and get some XP leveling a job.
Yeah, the floor and ceiling of the who's in the lobby is extremely just RNG. Have you guys tried the new ice map, the new Shatter?
Yes.
Was it changed a few months ago, right?
I believe so. Yes, it's been at least like 2 months or something. Yeah.
If it's been out for a couple of months, then I've definitely played it at some point. Yeah, I think it's fine. I think it's better than the old version. At least I don't remember exactly what was wrong with. Oh no, the old version was bad because once you broke one of the big crystals, it would never respawn, right? And they changed. I might be wrong, but
no, you're right. You're right. That's how it was.
I think that's how it worked. Yeah. And so depending on RNG, sometimes you would just. I mean, the crystal next to your base would just never activate, and you would always have to fight across the map for big crystals, and that was a huge disadvantage, from what I remember, at least. And so the teams that got their big crystals activated near their bases, they would have just an insane advantage compared to the one team that got robbed, kind of, by RNG. That's my feeling, at least. I wasn't. Yeah, that's how I remember it going.
And Hoodie, anything you want to add before I go on to the next map question?
Yeah, I mean, I think the new ice map is a slight improvement. I think there's still like, I think a lot of the game flow is like dictated by where the big crystal spawns, and then you just have like zergs of every team trying to get that, which does like incentivize some combat, which is nice. But yeah, I think it's an okay map. I'll still think like Onsol's probably the most fun.
Onsol is very fun. Yeah.
Now I want to ask. Now that Red Sands has been out for a little bit, has your team been screaming on it?
Not at all. We've been on a kind of a break anyway from LP. There's less interest in it since CCRC is over. People are taking breaks from LP for now. At least myself, I have not scrimmed on it. I don't know if Hoodie has, but I have not.
In terms of solo queue, have you been playing on it?
Yes.
Yeah, that we have.
What are your thoughts on it, starting with Cliff?
I think it's completely fine. I might be biased, but I kind of dislike Cloud9. So anything that is better than Cloud9 is good enough for me. The main things I don't really like about the map is, I mean, they're all tied to the fact that it's really new and people haven't really figured out how to play it yet. Like people dying to PvE mechanics. That's a little bit frustrating, but I mean, it is what it is. Surely people will get better eventually once they understand what the PvE mechanics actually do. I think it's a decent map. Some parts of it are really open, some parts of it are really closed. Depending on where you fight, it's a different flow depending on if you fight really in the middle section or if you fight towards the 50 checkpoints. Which most of the other maps, they're either really closed or really open. So at least in that regard, the new map has kind of both at the same time, depending on where you're fighting, and I do like this aspect of it.
Let's continue.
I think,
and Hoodie?
In terms of level design, I really like it actually, because you have like, as Cliff said, you have like the close like corridor at the start of the map, and then you have like a bit more open near the checkpoints, which I think creates some variety in terms of fights, which is good. I think the main issue of the map is that there's no way ahead of time to determine like which event it will be once you're like near the 50% mark. So it could be that you're like in a very bad position, you're losing, and then the enemy team gets rewarded purely randomly by having the shield Cactuar spawn. And so that could like completely fuck you over, like almost like losing you the game. And I think that randomness is fine, but I wish there would be a way to tell ahead of time which one it will be in order for you to play around it.
That's true. I think I agree. One thing I'll say is people must have complained at some point because the most recent patch, I think this week, yeah, they did change that. They reduced the appearance rates of PV mechanics. They will happen less often, and they completely will stop happening during the overtime.
Yeah, so it does show that they are like looking at it. But yeah, I think a bit of randomness in the game mode is fine if you're able to play around it. But if it like shows up all of a sudden and the game tells you like just deal with it, I don't think it's very good game design.
Or just even just getting the outline, and being in a position to just lose your guards like flat out because of it, like at the worst times, is extremely unfortunate.
I also think a lot of players.
There's the Reaper on the other team, and they just press LB, and that's like an entire team wipe to the end line.
I think it was you guys that mentioned about the shield. I didn't think about it at first, but the shield sabot tender, how you can just have. I think you guys were having your ninja or something, like how you can just have one person take the entirety of the shield. I didn't know it was like it could add up on one person.
Yeah, so it's shared between players. I think also that is not a very intuitive mechanic, is also what I was about to say, like how the Cactuars work. Because I still see a lot of people guarding the Cactuar damage.
Yeah.
But little do they know that does not work. Yeah.
I learned that the hard way in a scrim.
It's like a few weeks or a few months for people to understand the specifics of how these like mechanics work. I remember actually like all the way back in season 1, it took me at least a couple days of playing on C9 to understand you could dodge the wind updrafts by pressing guard. That never was the game never tells you this. At some point, I guess I must have seen someone do it, and I realized that's how you dodge it. But I mean, at first I didn't know that was a thing.
I didn't know about the feather mechanic. I was just wondering what the hell that thing was. It took me many games to understand that you could just stand underneath it, and it was just obviously a 50-50 if someone else was on there with you. I had no idea that the feather would even give you LB or the movement speed or the buff until much later.
True. At the very, very start of season 1 as well, I thought the LB generation was tied to how much damage you would deal to other people or how much damage you were taking. But it turns out it's just a flat cooldown.
Yeah, or even getting in combat. I always understood that getting in combat was what started like the LB race at first.
But that's absolutely not the case. It's just a CD. That's the kind of things that just aren't communicated by the game like at all. You just have to figure it out by yourself, or you have to have people tell you this. But I mean, I guess it's easy to forget the very start of playing CC, but I would imagine very completely new players, they would get confused by this as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are like very subtle about the game mode, and it's not really, at least not in game, it's explained in a very like decent way. I know they have like, I think it's quite a solid like guide to Crystalline Conflict on the website of Final Fantasy, but like in game I feel like there should be like some kind of introduction. Introducing new players to a bunch of the subtleties of the game mode.
Yeah.
I think that would be a great addition.
I think the game mode is really well thought out, but it's not very well communicated at all. Yeah. So I see. I mean, Square really understands what they're doing, but they're not telling people their thought process at all.
It's strange, right? Because they know something's there. They definitely saw it now with NA and EU Fanfest. And the amount of activity of Light Party in general that goes on in JP, like they're sitting on gold, right? So you would just, I mean, you can only kind of hope that they kind of take initiative to realize the potential of the mode and try to make it the best it can be. Because even like the tooltips, right? There was a lot of tooltips that took multiple seasons for them to fix. Like even the visual
the buff one is a very infamous one for being broken. The Monkalbi tooltip, I think it's been fixed by now, but for a very, very long time, it used to say if you guard before Monkalbi, it would not deal. It would deal 12k damage less if you guarded before it. The guard break effect is how do you say this? It's a specific thing of the ability, and if you do break a guard, then you miss out on 12k damage that should have been dealt on a target that does not have guard. It turns out this is completely wrong. It was never intended to work like this. The JP toolbox has always been correct, and which is Monkalbi removes guard and then deals 24k damage, regardless of whether or not you broke a guard with it. It's just that the 24k damage is split off in two separate instances of 12k at the very end of the animation, and 3 times 4k dots, quote unquote dots, while the target is being pummeled into the air. This is very specific, but yeah.
Yeah. I know that even like the Salted Earth, the buff to the visual of like Salted Earth giving you the rampart effect, it's even if the Salted Earth is gone, the buff still rolls. You're still getting mitigated even if the Salted Earth isn't there.
Yeah,
and that's been that way since season 1. They haven't fixed it.
It's 2 different buffs. There's the buff for having the puddle down, and then the buff for actually being inside the puddle.
Yep.
But the buff that you get for being inside the puddle, it lasts 5 seconds, so you can walk in and out of the puddle and still have the buff. It's kind of the same thing with Sage LB. As long as you get the buff, you've got 5 seconds to do whatever you want. If you want to run out of the Sage LB and then run back in, you can. I feel like, I mean, that's a very advanced tech, but people, Sage players, could be using this to their advantage to try and bait people into spending resources on targets that do not look like they have the buffs, but actually do have it still rolling from the 5 seconds prior when they were standing inside it.
I just hope they're listening, right? If we got to write on the forums, which I know a lot of people don't like to do. I mean, someone's got to do it. Unfortunately, we are over the hour mark. Obviously, as much as I want to be talking with you guys. And again, thank you so much. I understand that you guys are, like 7 hours ahead of me at the moment or something of the sort.
It's 9 p.m. over here. About 9 p.m. That's fine. It's not too late.
I do want to ask, starting with Hoodie, was there like a standout moment for you at FanFest? If like maybe meeting your teammates and like taking a picture together and just kind of like, was it surreal? Or was there maybe meeting the staff or just walking into the venue? Was there any standout moment for you at FanFest?
Yeah, I think there's been a couple. I think there were a lot of PvP players there, people I know from the game, and getting to meet all of them and hang out with them was definitely like a big moment for me. I think also walking on stage, getting to play there on stage is like a once in a lifetime opportunity. So I'm definitely grateful for Square Enix for like giving me the opportunity to do something like that. And also meeting Yoshida backstage, seeing the enthusiasm he has for the game mode is also like a very nice thing to see.
And Cliff?
Yeah, I was gonna say pretty much the exact same things. It's meeting the team on the first day at the hotel, meeting team members, seeing them in real life for the first time. That's really fun just by itself. Like having this internet thing that actually has an impact in real life as well. Then playing on stage was really fun once we got past the setting up issues and not having Steam and whatnot. Just being inside the games, playing on stage, was extremely fun. Winning the tournament, obviously. Having Yoshida talk to us backstage and congratulate us on, the hard work we had put in to reach this level. And like the synergy between players, what Hoodie said, the fact that he actually did understand what was going on during the tournament was really nice to see. Taking pictures with Yoshida backstage as well was really fun, and having him sign the trophies and shirts and whatnot was really fun. I also really liked the Primals concert. I thought it was really fun. With also Hoodie said this, the members of Square Enix staff and the people who also organized the PvP tournament dancing on stage as the like the twinning meme of like light party, 4 people with 2 red shirts, 1 green shirt, 1 blue shirt, dancing to that one meme video that was posted in Shadowbringers.
I can't. The name escapes me, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and also one great moment was the final goodbyes that the Square Enix staff gave to everyone at the very end of FanFest after the Primals concert was over. You could tell it was really genuine, and it made me feel like they like really cared about the community and really cared about the game they were making, which is not to be taken for granted, I think, in today's ecosystem.
Just to add on top, did you guys? How did you guys celebrate after, like, at the end of the night? Like, did you guys were you guys just winded out? Did you maybe get some drinks together, some food?
Yeah, we got a couple of drinks and a little bit of food, but then some people had to take flights or trains back home really early the next day, so we couldn't spend the entire night celebrating. But we definitely did have a little bit to drink and to eat together, well, with the other teams as well. Some of the other teams, whoever wanted to join us, at least.
Yeah. Well, once again, thank you so much for being here. Is there any shout outs you want to give to anyone, or maybe any social links where people can follow you?
Not too active on social media. I'd like to, shout out to Square for making the tournament. It was a very fun experience. Also, if you're interested in CC and you're playing in EU, join either Revival or EU PvP, and there will be a ton of people ready to help you out. These are both Discords, by the way. And it was just a really great experience, and it's fun to talk about it like here and have this commemorated.
Yes, thank you very much for having us. It was a great time talking to you and the other members of the Unafy people.
Yeah, thank you to all the Unafy cast, Gary, Joe, Apollyon, Socks, people that just kind of went working behind the scenes. And that will do it for us today. Good luck in your future endeavors, Cliff. Hoodie, hopefully run into you guys in the future. Hopefully this isn't just, one and done. You can walk away from Light Party forever. I hope to see you guys in the future, just for absolutely anything. And hopefully we get to see more you folks. So to everyone listening out there, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.